Touch football is one of the fastest growing sports in the country. No better evidence of its popularity than at West Gosford today for the finals of the CHS Championships. Almost 5,000 players started the knockout competition 8 months ago, but only the state's elite were left for the final day's action, 8 teams from all corners of New South Wales. At the start of the tournament, the city students were expected to dominate, but it was instead the country connection showing all of the flair. In the girls, Gosford beat Tweed River 4-3 to earn a berth in the grand final, while Tamworth thumped Gresswood from Sydney. The decider, though, was neck and neck, and at half-time scores were locked at 2-all, Tamworth breaking the deadlock in extra time. Australian representative 16-year-old Cara Webb was player of the match. And Wellington won the boys' competition, the guys from the bush too strong for their coastal rivals from Westport. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
An option, is it?
Striking is definitely an option. This week in Canberra. After an horrific week for the Coalition, there was something to hit back with today. Claims the heartland of the Labor Party, waterfront workers, have had their hands in the taxpayers' pockets without an invitation.
Their heart and soul, the favoured sons of Labor, the aristocrats of the Labor movement, the Maritime Union of Australia.
The allegations, gleaned from a report tabled in State Parliament, concern 42 members of the Maritime Union employed by the Hunter Port Authority. Minister Sharp says the authority's monopoly position allowed the union to force a pay rise workers weren't qualified for. He claims staff also found a way of clocking on for work when they weren't actually there.
But under this rort, they were able to ensure that for every hour they worked, they claimed 10 hours. 10 hours of pay for every hour they work.
The Maritime Union has made it clear the allegations, which it says are completely unfounded, apply only to staff of the Port Authority and not wharfies. Management of the Port Authority, meanwhile, says the Minister has his facts wrong. It says the claims of rorting don't even vaguely relate to the content of the report. Laura Saperstein, NBN News.
These students are already learning to identify unwanted catheads and castor oil plants. Winners of a statewide weeds awareness competition, the Department of Agriculture says they're the key to the future. Project organisers say this year drew an overwhelming number of entries.
We had about 30,000 entries from about 120 schools. That's within the lower Hunter and Central Coast region alone, so we're very happy with the response.
Today's certificates were awarded to the winning students. And while the prize money may not be much, it's the message they'll pass on to others that's invaluable.
Students are very much aware. That's why we perhaps go to the students, and we hope that the students will go home and take across the message to their parents and to their older brothers and sisters.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
Yeah, drift off to sleep now. Just take a few big breaths for me.
This $100,000 machine monitors patients' responses to the mix of anaesthetic drugs they're given while undergoing surgery. It's a far cry from the alternatives of a century ago.
In those days, it was a matter of maybe giving the patient a bit of alcohol and then just holding them down and going for it as quickly as possible.
Literally, a bottle of ether and some gauze to tide you over until the deed was done. And while a hand-operated pump signified a major advance, it's only in the past 10 years or so that pain management and safety has radically improved. Australia and New Zealand now lead the world in safely administering anaesthetic.
With the quality of training that anaesthetists get in Australia and the equipment and the drugs that we use and the support services in hospital.
Anaesthesia is still a very complex procedure. 1 in 50,000 will die from it. But improvements are continually being made, and doctors say the near future will mean even better safety and quicker recovery for patients. To commemorate the anniversary, the John Hunter Hospital will be hosting a display of old and new equipment. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
It was tough going for everyone at Merewether Beach in Newcastle today. Atrocious conditions forcing surfers to make the most of every wave. This afternoon's finals lasted 25 minutes, but most of the time was spent running up the beach and paddling out. In the open competition, Port Macquarie's Michael Caine started well. His first ride put him in the lead, but the conditions got the better of the 25-year-old. He managed only 4 waves in the final. The winning performance came from Mitch Dawkins. Consecutive perfect tens in his final 2 efforts pushed him well clear for the Classic Open title. And in the juniors, Invitational Indigenous champion Paul Evans added another crown to his collection. After faultless surfing in the heats and semis, the Scots Head junior continued to dominate. He won from Yamina's Drew Courtney, while Lake Cat Eye's Brett Symes finished third. A cruel blow for the Newcastle Breakers only an hour before kick-off, with replacement striker Harry James ruled out of the team himself with the virus. After solid training sessions all week to mould the new attacking force, it wasn't the start the Breakers needed, and in front of a 4,500 strong home crowd, Brisbane added insult to injury to go to the break up 2-1. The second half was all Brisbane. Last year they had the best home record of any league team, and they set about maintaining that record. A goal-scoring blitz saw the Strikers smash home 4 unanswered goals in a miserable second term, although some of the goals came a little easier than others. For the home side, Rod Brown posted a hat-trick, and new coach and former Socceroo Frank Farina also found the net, with the final scoreline 6-1.
From the air, it was hard to believe nobody was killed. 3 cars concertinaed into one and another vehicle run off the road. It's believed at about 2 o'clock this afternoon the southbound Commodore crossed lines on the Pacific Highway just before the Karua Bridge. It sideswiped one vehicle before hitting another head-on. Heavy rain hampered rescue efforts as emergency crews tried to free the injured. An 81-year-old man was airlifted to the John Hunter Hospital with serious chest injuries. 6 others were admitted with various complaints. It was the 3rd serious crash in the area, both Westpac rescue helicopters forced to miss most of the service's open day at Broadmeadow.
In terms of utilisation of both helicopters, I think this has been the busiest day we've had.
But the Westpac helicopters did eventually get back to base, even if it was only to prove that pigs can fly. The Rotary Club organised a drop-off to raise more than $2,000 for the helicopter service and John Hunter's Children's Hospital. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Statistics show cars are the major contributors to air pollution. Swimming champion Nicole Stevenson spent the day encouraging children to tell their parents to leave the car at home.
What I'm trying to do is to encourage kids to go home to mum and dad and say, you know, can we walk to the shops today instead of taking the car?
Nicole is one of 4 athletes selling the Clean Air 2000 campaign to students and teachers. It's part of a major effort leading up to the Sydney Olympics.
Hopefully I can encourage them through sport to be a little bit more healthy and help the environment.
Nicole will visit other schools in the coming months. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
It was Newcastle's worst-kept basketball secret. After leaving the Falcons at the end of the 1995 season and spending a year with the Giants, Tony Jensen is back.
To get this done has been a real plus for the club and for the future, because it'll be a long-term arrangement. Now he's not looking to move again.
Newcastle reached terms with the 195-centimetre guard today. He wanted to return to Newcastle, and the Falcons didn't need much persuasion.
We've got a player that has proven his worth in the league, proven his worth to us.
Jensen's first return match could be played overseas, with the Falcons off to the States in a fortnight for a 7-match tour. The itinerary has been finalised. They'll play Division 1 university sides across Atlanta and the Midwest. Jensen's signing is expected to speed the process of other contract negotiations. Next on the hit list is American import and captain Butch Hayes, while the Falcons also hope to secure the services of their second import as soon as possible. That position is currently held by the point-scoring giant David Van Dyke. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
A tour of the ADI Minehunter facilities by the Minister gave Chamber representatives the opportunity to sell Williamtown as Australia's major defence facility. The headquarters will bring the 3 arms of defence under one roof, accommodating 1,000 senior military personnel, and provide an annual wages bill of $85 million.
It brings 1,000 jobs. It brings with it about $85 million in wages that can be spent in this region. And it's certainly proving that the Hunter is becoming the place to do defence work in Australia.
Mr Peterson says Williamtown is the obvious choice, given the Defence Force's presence within the Hunter. Williamtown has been shortlisted for the project, along with Holsworthy, Nowra, Potts Point and Glenbrook. The Chamber rates itself a good chance.
I think we have a very good chance. I think when you sit down and look at the alternatives, you'll find that Williamtown should come out in front every time.
While admitting Williamtown does have its merits, Defence Minister McLaughlin says it's early days yet.
It's a long way off, and I think like a lot of other aspirants, people will just simply have to wait. So,
the headquarters are expected to be operational by the turn of the century. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Around 20% of the Central Coast's population is over 65, yet up until now, the hundreds requiring coronary angiograms or cardiac surgery have had to travel to Sydney or Newcastle for treatment. It's a situation that the head of Brisbane Water's private hospital today announced is no longer necessary.
And it's a very big strain on parents and family, and to have to get up and travel down an hour and a half each way to visit is a bit of a drama, and here they can have it on their doorstep.
The hospital's $10 million refurbishment means diagnostic procedures, treatment through medication or surgery and follow-up care can now be carried out on the coast. The hospital's fully equipped cardiac unit makes it literally a one-stop shop.
It's really elevated the hospital to a level where it can now undertake any level of surgery.
4 surgeons from Sydney's Royal North Shore Hospital and a team of local specialists lead the cardiac unit. A Umina woman celebrating her 80th birthday was the first person to undergo heart bypass surgery at the hospital. Surgeons hope to average 10 bypasses and 30 angiograms every week. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
The forum at the Westfield Shopping Centre at Tuggerah was the first of its kind organised by the Wyong Council to address issues of concern to young people. Issues raised included unemployment, transport, recreation, drug and alcohol concerns.
I think there's a feeling amongst the youth that they're really not listened to, that what they think doesn't matter. We're trying to break that and to say, look, we are interested in what you think. We want to know what you think so that we can try and tailor some programs.
Around 200 young people attended. Ideas gathered will go to the Youth Advisory Committee comprising local teenagers who'll present their findings to relevant government bodies. Another forum will be held next year.
The 100 kilometres from the entrance to Gosford is one of the tougher stages of Australia's premier road race. The Killer Hills and the Yarramalong Valley sorted out the field within the first 16 kilometres. A breakaway group of 5 riders had forged 6 minutes ahead at the bottom of the tortuous climb up Bumble Hill. Australia's Bart Hickson powered up the mountainside to take the first of his 2 climbs for the day. The riders were happy to leave the hills behind as they wound their way into Gosford. Germany's Marcel Wust breaking away from the pack with 500 metres to go to win the stage. The win leaves Wust in 6th position. Countryman Sven Teutenberg still leads by 2 minutes for Team Bosch, despite finishing well behind today's winners.
The Handy Roseland sat idle today at Newcastle's BHP wharf after 52 maritime union workers walked off the job. They're refusing to load the ship with steel because it's bound for Indonesia.
This is virtually a message that people in Australia don't agree with the government's attitude towards the people in Indonesia.
Today's ban coincides with an International Day of Action supporting democratic freedom in Indonesia. Campaigners began their protest yesterday in Newcastle with an overnight vigil and 24-hour hunger strike. Activist George Adedondro says Indonesian repression is good for Australian business, which is why the government has been slow to react.
With repression of workers' rights, the Australian businesses like BHP and CRA doesn't have to bother about strikes and about workers demanding higher wages.
The Maritime Workers Union plans to continue periodic rolling bans on cargo bound for Indonesia. Vanessa Spark, NBN News. Some gathered nervously outside the exam hall at Newcastle High School, while others tried to squeeze in some last-minute preparation. But most just wanted to get on with it.
I think a lot of people at the moment are really just hoping to get it over and done with.
English was the first paper to lure Year 12 students to the exam room. Pupils undertook Part 1 today, which focused on reading and writing. Hours later they emerged and it was good news.
It was alright, it was a lot easier than what I expected.
Well, I'm out with about 15 minutes to go, so I'm very happy.
I thought it was easier than the trial, and I'm glad it's over.
Each paper had a reading and writing task as well as a topic-based question. English teacher Vi Welsh says there were no big surprises, but Part 2 of the paper is yet to come.
Well, so far, fair, but these are just the first stages, the next papers are ready stage.
Exams will continue during the coming month. Vanessa Spark, NBN News. Rick Barker began his fight to convert this wetland into a permaculture farm 6 years ago. It's been a long haul, which he says has been complicated by government legislation called SEP 14, which is designed to protect the environment.
All it's been is a series of hurdles for us to go through to do what had been practiced for the last 60, 70 years prior to that.
The legislation means landholders must seek state government approval before clearing or cultivating their land. It's proven to be a time-consuming and costly process for many across the state. That's why the New South Wales farmers commissioned a study by Southern Cross University to see if it's all worth it.
We are asking landowners to inform us what are the costs or benefits of these policies and to place estimates on that.
Mr Brennan will consult with landholders, the community and local councils. The first public meeting will be held in Nelsons Bay tonight. It's the 18th hold-up in the Newcastle area this month. A masked man burst into Merryweather's Don Bepino's restaurant in Railway Street just before 9 o'clock last night. He forced the 22-year-old chef Robert Dentino to hand over a small sum of cash before escaping with another man in a blue Holden Commodore. Witnesses described the man as being in his early 20s, tall, of slim build, wearing dark-coloured pants with a bone jacket. The recent spate of robberies prompted Newcastle Police to form a special task force codenamed Allenby, a move which they say is starting to pay off.
Well, since the task force has been operating so far, they made an arrest last Friday and charged a fellow with 2 armed robberies in the Newcastle area, and also the armed robbery of the Mobile last Sunday night. They were able to make an arrest there as well.
Police have urged local business people to report any suspicious behaviour and make sure their security cameras are in good working order. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
It's this bushland site east of Bennett's Green that police believe the thieves had been using as a car dumping ground. Some of the vehicles had been overturned, some ransacked and others destroyed by fire. Last night, police arrested 3 men attempting to break into cars at John Hunter Hospital. A 4th was being treated at the hospital for an injury he received while allegedly breaking into another car. Their inquiries led to 4 arrests and more than 100 charges relating to the theft of motor vehicles. Detectives believe the men are responsible for the theft of 20 cars from different locations around Newcastle. After a brief appearance in Wallsend Court this afternoon, the 4 were remanded in custody to appear later this week. Blake Doyle, NBN News. Opposition to the importing of cooked chicken meat has come from growers themselves, mainly on financial grounds. but there's growing concern from other groups on health grounds. A disease known as Newcastle disease has been detected in some foreign chicken meat, a disease which has the potential to wipe out a shed of chickens in hours. Hunter councils claim it could spread to other bird life across the Lower Hunter and Lake Macquarie.
Because after all, we're dealing with a virus that is, by the Australian Quarantine Service's own document, is the most feared virus as far as avian diseases are concerned.
The claims are based on research and tests of Newcastle disease on certain species.
Some reports that I've read is that in testing the eastern rosella there was 100% mortality within 6 days.
Councils have written to the Prime Minister's office voicing their concerns. Meanwhile, in a bid to quell the trade in native wildlife, the owners of exotic birds have until Friday to join the National Exotic Birds Registration Scheme. Keepers of species known internationally as endangered or posing a threat to the environment must be registered. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
The Nardell underground mine will go 300 metres below this land, that was revegetated after the closure of the old Ravensworth open-cut mine. It will also give one of the Hunter's most expensive white elephants new legs, the Ravensworth coal preparation plant, to be finally fully used. The 19 square kilometre site is expected to generate $5 billion within 4 decades. The payroll alone worth $10 million a year.
Well, we'll see about 150 new jobs being created directly from this operation. The flow-on effects of that are great. We see probably in the vicinity of 300 or 400 jobs being created in the community.
A spur rail line will be built so the 3 to 5 million tonnes of coal a year can be freighted to Newcastle, rather than add further pressure to the region's roads. It's one of the few mines not to excite the public interest. This is believed to be primarily due to the reduced environmental effects of underground mining.
During the public exhibition period, we received very little inquiry, primarily because it was an underground coal mine with very little impact.
Singleton Council approved the plan last night and has referred it to the Minister for Planning for a final decision. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
As it turned out, we all had to split up and go our own ways, and everyone's keen to come back and pretty optimistic looking to 1997.
It was a war of words this afternoon as the two teams debated the topic that parents of today are good role models. The students' parents and schoolmates were on hand to offer plenty of support. The crowd favourite was Gateshead West Primary, the team having already won 2 rounds to make it through to the state final. They took the negative argument, accusing parents of failing to practice what they preach. Their opponents from Hinchinbrook in southwestern Sydney, meanwhile, did their best to convince the audience that parents are indeed doing a good job. But in the end, it was Gateshead West who convinced the adjudicators that parents of today just aren't up to scratch, the team winning the argument and the state title. Emma Theossian, NBN News.
Lee Morn first flagged the idea for a local club to play in the Sydney competition back in 1976. His dream became a reality when the Knights ran onto the field in 1988. Despite leaving Newcastle, Morn is still an avid supporter of the Knights' on-field performances, though he's less supportive off the field. He claims years of hard work establishing the club was wasted when the Knights rejected Super League. Morn disagrees with claims he's been disloyal.
True loyalty is to see the Knights in the major competition available to them, to be a prosperous business, and also to provide what we put the place there for, entertainment, something to be proud of for the citizens of the Hunter Valley.
Morn doubts Newcastle can support two teams in the dual competitions next year, and given the Knights' poor financial situation, says there's still time for reconciliation.
Reconciliation will end the day the Mariners kick a ball in anger in their first match of the competition. Until then, reconciliation is very available. I know that for a fact.
Knights coach Mal Reilly, who's cut a UK holiday short to recruit a reserve-grade coach and more players, says the club will survive on its own.
They certainly won't handle two teams as well as they would have handled one, but I think if any team's going to succeed on the park, it will be the Knights.
The Knights are expected to appoint a reserve-grade coach within a fortnight. Blake Doyle, NBN News.